boot camp, nothing is impossible again. Or, Ed Bars put it, and boot camp had, and I quote, of taking you down to the dregs of your soul, then building you up to believe that you, with your fellow Marines, can do anything. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir. I would like to now introduce to you Matthew Manriquez. Matthew Manriquez was born and raised in Houston and attended the United States Military Academy, where he graduated with honors with a Bachelor of Science in Systems Engineering in 2014. He commissioned as an engineer officer and was first stationed at Fort Hood with the 1st Cavalry Division. As an officer of the United States Army, he served as platoon leader, executive officer, human resources officer, and an aide-de-camp and assignments spanning Texas, South Korea, Kuwait, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Matthew is currently a student at the Jones Graduate School of Business, where he serves as the co-president of the Veterans Association. Upon graduation, he will join Morgan Stanley as an energy investment banker. Ladies and gentlemen, Matthew Manriquez.
Thanks for the introduction, Lauren. Thank you for leading us through the ceremony today. And speaking of the ceremony, thank you to Skylar Boss for putting all of this together and make sure it goes through without an issue. To our honoree, Mr. Terry Hughes, sir, thank you for your service, not just to Rice, but to your country as well. It's clear you've been an institution here for the past 2 decades. It's very impressive, sir. To President Lebron, sir, if you're here today, thank you for your attendance and thank you for your leadership over these past tumultuous months. It's been strange times, and I know y'all don't need me to tell you how strange it's been. All it takes is one look around the room, and you can see that we don't have as many people here today as we would like. Everyone on this campus right now is wearing a mask. We have new words in our lexicon today, like social distancing and contact tracing. But even though the ceremony doesn't look like it has over the past 17 years, the fact that we're here today in person and remotely, persevering through the challenges that have been placed before us, I think that's the perfect way to honor our service members, past, present, and future. You know, this is the first time I've had the privilege to speak at a Veterans Day ceremony. And so, because it's something so near and dear to my own heart, I was worried I'd screw it up. So I did what most people do, and I reached out to those that have been there before. I spoke to a mentor of mine, my previous commander, Major General Dave Hill, who's given a few of these talks in the course of his 30 years of service and counting. And I asked him, sir, what's the secret to success? What's that secret sauce? And he broke it down for me simply, as he always has. And he said, Matt, just think about what service means to you. And so I did that. And even though those are simple words and it's easier said than done, I reflected over that over the past several days. I thought about my great-great-grandfather who immigrated from Mexico, came to Houston, ultimately finding employment at this very institution as a custodian. I thought about my family members over the generations that have served in every armed conflict since World War II, including my older brother, Zach, who's been an officer in the Navy for the past 12 years. And ultimately, I thought about that fateful morning on September 11th, when I was sitting in Mrs. Einham's 4th grade homeroom, just a few miles down the road. That was whenever I learned about the attacks on the World Trade Center. And it was that moment that I, like so many of my generation, first felt and heard the call to service. I think it's a unique reaction that we have in our armed forces and our volunteer force that's currently spread all over the world in hundreds of countries, thousands of miles away from home and from loved ones. It's a unique reaction, and we all have our own journeys, our own stories. And over the generations, we fought different enemies in different places and had different challenges. But I think something that makes us unique is that we all have that story. But it's not just about that story or where we come from, because that's not what really matters. What matters is that it doesn't matter that we have our own different backgrounds, or you can throw out red and blue, or gender, or some of the differences that might divide us today, race, gender, creed, sexual orientation. None of that matters. What matters is that we all felt that we was more important than me. What matters is that moment that we raised our right hand and swore an oath to defend the Constitution of this country. And I know in this country times are hard. I know that the differences we feel seem more challenging than they ever have before. The challenges we face seem harder to overcome. Those divisions feel deeper. All of that's magnified by social media and by constant news networks. But again, I think that despite that division that we feel, I'm reminded of the words of General James Mattis when he said that a country doesn't have to be perfect to be worth fighting for. And so as I kept thinking about the idea of service and what it means, I also thought about the fact that at some point for all of us, regardless of whenever we put on a uniform, whether it's for a few weeks, a few months, a few decades, at some point the day comes that we all take that off for the last time, whether it's through career transition or through military retirement or by giving the ultimate sacrifice. And so while it is true that that time comes to an end for all of us, and it's true that I'm not standing before you today with the U.S. Army written over my heart or unit and combat patches on my sleeves, it's also true that service doesn't have to end there. Because those experiences that we've had, the places we've been, the teams that we've been a part of, the leaders that we've followed, or the soldiers that we've led, those moments, whether harrowing or not, when you're in a bunker or a trench or a foxhole, on a ship or a submarine, those moments don't leave us. You have those times with your battle buddies to your left and your right, where you're constantly refining that sense of dark gallows humor that's so unique to the military. That never leaves us. And we say in the Army that once you're a soldier for life. And I know the same is true for our sister branches in the Navy, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, and the Marines. Those lessons don't leave us. And I think that those experiences, it's important that we reflect on them, because those experiences, good, bad, and different, for better or worse, we have to take those and remember them. We have to remember those values of loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage, because those values don't change. Those values don't leave us whenever we transition from military to civilian life. And for nearly 250 years now, our country's relied upon its sons and daughters to keep us free. They often come home and continue serving in new ways as educators, as innovators, as engineers, community leaders, and so many more. I think it's important that we keep on remembering that and keep on living that. And today's about honoring all those veterans that have come before, that will come. It's about thanking them for all they have done, continue to do, and will do. So as I say, thank you for inviting me up here to speak. I want to turn to all of our veterans here and all over the world and say thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir. Next to speak will be Midshipman Charles Wanell. Did I pronounce that right? Thank you, sir. Midshipman Wanell is a Houston native. A lot of Houston natives today. And a senior Jones College and a senior at Jones College here at Rice. He's pursuing a bachelor's in mechanical engineering with a minor in naval science. He is the midshipman commanding officer of the Rice NROTC unit for the upcoming spring semester and has service selected to be a surface warfare officer upon commissioning. Ladies and gentlemen, Midshipman Charles Winnell. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. Sir, gentlemen, thank you both for being here and your words. 100 years ago, 102 now, a treaty was signed in a small town in northern France, bringing an end to what was known at the time as the Great War. Taking effect at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, the armistice was signed between the powers of World War I. Armistice, coming from Latin meaning the stoppage of arms, was a fitting end to the war that was known as the War to End All Wars. Unfortunately, for all of us here today, it is painfully clear to see that we did not, in fact, end war. In the century since then, the world and this country has seen war time and time again, and the sacrifices of men and women have time and time again been necessitated. For 35 years, the anniversary of that day was dedicated towards remembering the end of conflict and all that were lost in it. But in 1954, Dwight D. Eisenhower realized that we cannot yet be annually celebrating the end of war when we have not seen it. He changed the name of that day of remembrance from Armistice Day to what we now know it as Veterans Day, because what we remember and what we celebrate every year is not the end of war, but the continuing rising of men and women to meet it so that it shall never come to our doorstep. And the war rages on today for all that have ever rose to this nation's call. For even those who have survived the conflict overseas continue to fight a war at home. Can we please always keep that in mind? And as we remember those who have already given for us, remember that their fight may not be over, and there is still more that we can give for them. It is encouraging to think that someday we may yet see the end of fighting and conflict, but it can also be dangerously naive and placating. For the reality is, the harsh, brutal reality that many of us here today may know is that there will always be war, and most of us here today have seen this. For those here today and everywhere that have stood for our nation, thank you. It's you we celebrate and you we remember, not just on November 11th, but always. We are all crystal clear that we have you directly to thank for the freedoms that we enjoy so abundantly to the point where we often take it for granted. This is a debt that we can never truly repay. So instead, on behalf of the Rice Naval ROTC Department, we honor you by making the same promise to you that you have made and so selflessly kept to us. That we will take the torch and continue to fight no matter where it is or how long it may last. That even in times of unforeseen challenges such as global pandemics, we will continue to train, maintain a state of readiness so that we can rise to meet any challenge that should come. For there would be no greater disrespect than to let all that you and every man and every woman in uniform has done for this country to have been done in vain, by forgetting, becoming complacent, and allowing ourselves to become desensitized how truly remarkable it is what you all have done for this country. So let us today celebrate your sacrifice. Let us celebrate your courage and bravery. And most importantly, let us celebrate your homecoming. So welcome home. Thank you. And I hope that it gives you hope and encouragement when we say, please rest easy, because we have the watch. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
It is now my honor to ask that the members of our audience stand or raise your hand when I call your branch of service to be recognized for your service to our country. Would the past and present members of the United States Army please stand or raise your hand? Would the past and present members of the United States Marine Corps please stand or raise your hand? Would the past and present members of the United States Navy please stand or raise your hand? Would the past and present members of the United States Air Force please stand or raise your hand? Would the past and present members of the United States Coast Guard please stand or raise your hands? Would the past and present members of the United States Merchant Marines please stand or raise your hand? Please join me in congratulating all of our veterans. Now, I would like to ask for a brief moment of silence as we remember those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice and those who continue to be missing in action. Thank you. This year, we would like to honor the service of Terry Graham. Terry, could you please present yourself to the podium? Terry Graham enlisted in the United States Marine Corps in 1988. Trained as an aviation electronics technician, he serviced missile guidance systems on FA-18 aircraft. He was stationed at Marine Corps Air Station Kaneohe. Did I get that right? I'm sorry? Kaneohe in Bay, Hawaii until 1990, when he was deployed at the Sheikh Issa Air Base in Bahrain in support of Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm. As part of Marine Aviation Logistics Squadron 11, he supported 7 aircraft squadrons throughout the duration of the conflict. Terry is currently the manager for learning spaces in the Office of Information Technology at Duncan College and a Duncan College associate. He joined Rice in 1995 as the technician for the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department. In 1999, he transferred to the newly formed team in IT deploying instructional technology to Rice campus classrooms. At the time, these new systems were present in 20 campus classrooms and were used by just a handful of adventurous instructors. In the years since, Terry has overseen the growth of this technology from a novel teaching aid used by a few faculty to systems that are now integral to the instruction and are deployed to over 100 registered scheduled classrooms. Most recently, Terry led the effort to add technology to spaces across the campus to support the university's efforts to provide dual delivery instruction in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Terry and his wife Nola live in Alvin and are parents to 3 daughters. They recently celebrated the birth of their first grandchild and are loving this new season. Terry will be presented with the flag, American flag from Rice. And to go with the flag is a certificate commemorating today's events. Present yourself to the camera. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our ceremony. Thank you for joining us to honor all who served our country. Please keep safe and God bless America.